Hello. I'm going to talk about another piece of information from Gurdjieff, where he discusses the progressive formation of higher being bodies. He says, when the third body has been formed and has acquired all the properties, powers and knowledge possible for it, there remains the problem of fixing this knowledge and these powers, because, having been imparted to it by influences of a certain kind, they may be taken away by these same influences or by others. By means of a special kind of work for all three bodies, the acquired properties may be made the permanent and inalienable possession of the third body. The process of fixing these acquired properties corresponds to the process of the formation of the fourth body. This is interesting because he's saying that when you form a subsequent body, the process of doing that fixes inside you the previous body. So for instance, if you were to form the second body, the astral body, the process of forming it fixes in you the functions and powers of the physical body, the first body. So if I relate that to my experience with Qigong, in order to perform Qigong, I need to visualize, feel, use the breath, use the body in quite a skilled way. And of course, according to my will and aim. And so that seems to correspond, because I could not perform Qigong properly without mastery over the functions of the planetary body. However, I cannot say that I really represent Gurdjieff's teaching, because I was taught by a different teacher whose goal and means was to solidify identity, and to learn how to do that, to learn how to take ownership of things as your inalienable identity. That was the particular skill of my teacher. The Gurdjieff did not have that kind of skill. He did not work in that way. Gurdjieff worked by forward momentum, reaching higher and higher bodies, and to crystallize and work on them, and then to crystallize the next body and the next body and the next body. He was very Western in that way. I have, as I said, I'm not representing, I don't feel I can really represent Gurdjieff's teaching, but I do seem to be able to understand it better than anybody else that I have seen. And it's helpful for me, although, it's a long way between reading Gurdjieff, learning how to apply it in a correct understanding, and then using it for your deliberate evolution. That is a very long journey between those two poles. But Gurdjieff did not seem to value, say, sitting in meditation or sitting in devotional practice, which is another way to take ownership of where you are. If you create functions, if you master functions, if you activate functions and bodies, and another way is to learn how to sit within them so that your identity penetrates them in such a way that they are an inalienable part of you. For instance, if you were, let's say, able to speak to other people telepathically, from the second body. It's one thing to do that, and another thing to sort of own it. When you own it, it's like your identity, or your heart maybe, your heart goes into that function. So you really feel it as a sense of your inner self, rather than as a function that you can activate. That is something that I have concentrated on, because it was what my teacher concentrated on, this sense of the penetration of identity into the faculties. Last time when I was talking about the way people work with their centers in the fourth way, is that they normally observe the physical body or observe their emotions. So they're really working with their functions. They trigger the body, they trigger the emotions, and they observe them. But that's different to entering them. In other words, there is the effective mind of the emotional center, which is in the solar plexus area, that can be entered. And I suppose to be able to enter the mind is a function of the third body, possibly the fourth, I'm not sure. See, here's one thing, is I was wondering when Gurdjieff was talking about these bodies, what does he mean by the third body? If the first body is physical, the second body is, say, the chi body, the emotional body. What's the third body then? But the interesting thing is, if they work with the astral body, like with Qigong, then it's like they develop the astral body via the physical body. So you see people doing Tai Chi, they're moving their physical body, but it actually affects the Qi energy. It triggers astral body functions. And how you're taught in these Chinese arts is to then move from the physical body into the Qi itself. And only then, so you basically create the astral body via the first body. And then, and it's difficult, you are to enter the astral body. You see? But most people who perform the Tai Chi and the Qigong and all these Chinese arts, they do not do that. They do not reach that level. And they don't even know to do it, because by doing Tai Chi they feel relaxed and a bit healthier, and that's enough for them. They don't have the inspiration to make that inner shift. So they actually try to sense around them the cloak of the astral body and try to become one with it, that kind of thing. And if you do that, my point really is, you do that, you start to notice the difference between the physical body and the astral body. And then you can learn about the different worlds we can exist in. In the same way, and at the lowest scale of a man with a single planetary body, but within it 3 functions: physical, emotional, mental. So now we're going to a simpler situation where we're just looking at an ordinary person who's only got one body. He's not interested in those highfalutin things. But even in the planetary body there is physical, emotional and mental functions. As I said last time, it is habitual in our society to change your emotions by, for instance, listening to music, or by taking a deep breath, or eating certain kinds of food. So people are, in our society, people as a matter of course are changing their feelings through those means, through those physical means. They are not very good at directly changing their feelings. Do you see? It's like if you want to feel better, then you put some Barry Manilow music on, or something. But some people, artistic people, they feel, they're inside their feelings. All this, of course, goes completely unsaid in our society, but it's interesting to see it. And my teacher, on the subject of immortality, a lot of this talk about the four bodies that Gurdjieff does, he does it in the context of questions asked of him about whether man is immortal or not. And Gurdjieff responds to that by talking about the bodies and etc., etc., etc. But from the perspective of my teacher, and I think the Indian tradition, they are not so concerned with that kind of thing. They don't see our development in terms of the development of the subtle bodies, of subtle material. That is esoteric knowledge. In India, they're